meetings for our materials, the staff gets a written report back of what went on and all that. Does the county do that for you guys?
In terms of the
If you've
public
had,
meetings?
if they have outreach in a community group, do they let you know what went on?
They have let us know what went on just informally and through,
Oh.
not through anything
Nothing written, just sort of like, this is what we did.
Right.
Heard.
We don't have a public meeting requirement as far as mandatory referral. We just, we made the request that they do meet with the neighborhood. And then, just through conversations and email trails back and forth,
Yeah.
we
It's one of the
we understood the concerns that were expressed at those meetings.
It's too bad. I think that's just a missing piece of when we handle these sorts of things. So maybe we'll hear about it tonight. So.
Commissioner
I have a
Dirk.
feeling.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to follow up for, it may not be our purview, but this may be the first impervious surface of this type that the staff has reviewed within Rockville, and I wonder if you anticipate any problems, or are our regulations going to be adequate to handle it?
I don't know the status of the stormwater review at this time. I'm sure that there may be somebody from MCPS who's working directly with our public works staff who may have a better idea as to, where they are in that process. So they would be probably better informed.
And I believe there is artificial turf at Richard Montgomery High School, so our staff may have seen it before.
But does Richard Montgomery, I recall this property as having a sort of a slope in the back with that forest conservation area, the wooded area, and I'm not aware that
I think on this property, the forest conservation area is along
the 270.
Along 270
Right,
and
right, but it's gonna,
closer to
it may come right into that. Anyway, I'm concerned about that.
I don't see any bleachers planned on any of the plans. Do soccer fields not have bleachers?
They, the only thing in addition to the fields themselves and the track around the larger field is they were actually going to put in some concrete pad for dugout benches. I haven't seen anything, and there's nothing indicated on the site plan for spectator seating or for bleachers.
So you just bring your own chair and be a spectator? Okay.
That's what we do at schools these days. If there are no other questions, may we hear from the applicant?
So thank you for the opportunity to present the mandatory referral for this project. My name is Seth Adams. I'm the Director of Design and Construction for MCPS. So what I would like to start out to say that this is an exciting project for MCPS. It is a public-private partnership. So you heard in the staff report that MCPS is going to do the install. There's actually not public funds that are going to be involved in the installation of this. This is private funds. So this is a true public-private partnership for us. I would also say from a school community standpoint, we do pride ourselves in not only creating great schools, but creating community centers. And this particular school, we just finished an addition project, and what I would say is we had great support from the community, from parents, and I would applaud the principal who is here tonight. He is Mr. Staten, who has really brought together just an incredible school community that values not only the education, but also just having a place in the community. So I think this project, again, is just taking that a next step further and really building a community resource. I think from an MCPS perspective, what I would say is I heard a few comments about, what we would do, what we wouldn't do. I can say tonight we are absolutely committed to being great neighbors. That is something that we say at every property. As concerns come up, we are there to address it. If we talk about, timings and provisions around issues that may affect neighbors, we have entered into memorandums of understanding with other agencies and other partners. So I think these are all items that we are committed to working with the city staff, with the neighbors, as we partner with MSI on this project. So I'm not really going to go into too many details. I can certainly answer, a lot of the questions that were raised, but I'd also like an opportunity to turn it over to MSI, who certainly does have a great presence in the community. And, for them to be able to provide you a little bit of background about them as an organization, about their reach from not only the county, but from a City of Rockville resident perspective. So with that, I'll turn it over to MSI.
Seth. My name is Doug Schusler. I'm the Executive Director of MSI, and I'll add to that, a lifelong City of Rockville resident. I grew up playing sports here in the City of Rockville, and eventually raised my family here with my kids playing sports, and now thankfully they're all grown and gone, and I can just focus on other people's kids. MSI, I suspect that we are no stranger to people's knowledge base. You can barely turn and talk to somebody who doesn't say, oh, I had a child that played in MSI at one point or another. Our reach and our touch, within the community is, unparalleled. And the City of Rockville is no exception. We've talked about the our relationship with the City of Rockville community in a couple of different ways. One is so positive, and that's how many kids and parents are involved in our programs. And the last I checked, the City of Rockville population was something close to 66,000 people, and I think the estimate of school-age children was somewhere around 9,900 or so. And I'm here to say that of those 9,900 or so school-age children, nearly 2,000 of them are playing in MSI programs as we speak. And over the course of the year, probably some number even higher than that. So our impact on City of Rockville school children is really amazing in terms of its breadth. But the other part is maybe a little more difficult, and that is our difficulty in actually allowing our City of Rockville children to play close to home, and when they play close to home, to play on fields that are in good condition. We can't get access to most City of Rockville fields. The school fields that we are able to get access to are overplayed to death, and no matter how good the intentions are of maintenance departments, they can't keep these things in good shape. It's not a criticism at all of the maintenance departments. We simply have too many kids vying for too little space. And so the impact is that those fields get beat down. They can't drain well. It's not good for stormwater management either. It's a bad situation overall. This project has an opportunity to change the dynamic of that dramatically, not just because we have two fields. As I think has been pointed out already, we already have two fields there, and we already permit the daylight out of those fields and use them as much as we possibly can. Our use in the future likely will not be, very different than our use in the present in terms of the volume and whatnot, the number of people coming there, the traffic, the parking, et cetera. And our use to date has been, that of a remarkably good steward. We try to have a positive relationship with the authorities inside the school so that if there ever are problems, we get to hear about them and get a chance to fix them. Fortunately, we've had that relationship for so long. I've been at MSI now for 17 years that we don't have those problems anymore. But if we did, we would have that conversation and that relationship to address them. The advantage of this is so many-fold, one of which is very simply, we're going to have excellent quality fields for our children to play on. What's one of the biggest factors that's negatively impacting kids today? Obesity, lack of physical fitness, et cetera. What is the single greatest factor that decides whether a child continues to participate in a recreational sports activity? It's whether they enjoy it. One of the biggest factors that affects that is the quality of the facilities that they're on. I know there's other factors as well. But I'll draw a comparison that maybe is, a little more easy to visualize. If you imagine trying to play basketball and you go into the Julius West Middle School gym, and if that basketball court had floorboards that had popped out with nails exposed, that had a leak in the ceiling and so you had puddles on the floor, It would be a miserable experience for kids. They would leave with their knees bleeding, and having said, this wasn't really very much fun. Every time I tried to dribble the ball, it bounced off that floorboard off to the side, and I couldn't control it, et cetera, et cetera. Fortunately, we don't have those problems with gyms, but we do have those problems with athletic fields. The quality of the surface is so poor. The ruts, the bumps, the puddles, which in many instances will prevent us from being able to play at all. We're going to have a weather event here in the next few days that is likely going to cause us to cancel all activities on Saturday. Okay, I get it. Having synthetic turf fields will not allow us to play in a snow and sleet storm, but that's supposed to pass. And Sunday, we will still not be able to play on those same fields because they will be saturated. With these fields, we'll be able to get kids out there and play on Sunday because they will have drained very well. I know we had the question about whether synthetic turf is an impervious surface. I think the city of Rockville technically considers it to be an impervious surface for the purpose of various stormwater management rules, but in fact, the water drains right through it, down into the various collection systems and so on. And so we will be able to play on those fields if they were synthetic turf on Sunday. The same thing would be true with, all the other dates, whether it's weeknights for practices or games, when we have rains, and you so frequently see fields being closed. We'll have an opportunity to get thousands of kids out onto fields that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to. The other advantage is that we will be able to extend the time of play, and I get it that the lights is an issue that you want to talk about tonight. I understand that and think it is something that should be talked about. But we will be able to extend the play. During the fall especially, it gets dark. By the time you get into October, about 5:30 or so, it's too dark to play outside anymore. We'll be able to continue having outdoor activities for kids, keeping them healthy, keeping them happy, keeping them involved in all of these activities. And again, in terms of the impact on the community in terms of traffic and all the rest, we've said all along that we're not trying to sugarcoat anything here. The experience that people see with our traffic today, you go out there on a Saturday when we have lots and lots of teams playing, there's a lot of cars coming in. We manage that very effectively through various techniques. Parking management is one of them. Scheduling management is another. We used staggered schedules so that everybody doesn't stop at the same time and then the next cycle comes in and you have that overlapping mass. For example, this particular Saturday, our schedule calls for some games to start at 9 o'clock, some to start at 9:20, some to start at 9:40, and so on throughout the day. And by doing that, you can dramatically reduce the number of cars that are in there and make it fit, make it work. We have not had problems with traffic backing up on Falls Road. We have not had problems with people parking in the community nearby. I do recognize some of the complaints that we heard in some of the community meetings. There's a church across the street that can cause some of those problems. And in fact, we probably would want to talk with, the city about, how do we prevent the church from across the street parking when we want to have our soccer kids and families parking there. But from a soccer use perspective, we have not had those problems in the past, and we would not expect to have those problems in the future. So we're very encouraged by this project. We think that it's going to give City of Rockville kids an opportunity to play close to home far more often instead of constantly having to go to other cities to play their games. Yes, other cities will now come into, their teams will come into Rockville, but that's turnabout. If, it's City of Rockville goes to Gaithersburg, goes to Bethesda, goes to Potomac, and instead of the way it is today where it's always in those towns, it'll now be able to be spread out a little bit better. And that should have, I know that's not a City of Rockville issue, but for the schools that are in City of Rockville, hopefully it can have a beneficial effect on those fields that maybe have some of the play taken off of them, and they can maybe now not be in such decrepit condition because of overuse. So I know that was a lot of information, kind of stream of consciousness. I appreciate you listening to that, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer now and later on through the program. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, don't go away. We have questions.
Oh, so close.
Commissioner Tyner.
Just a point, my kids play soccer. Now they've long gone into college, but when you have made an arrangement with the